Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Bolder Woman podcast. I'm Chris Stafford, and at Wisp Sports, we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. And the Bolder Woman is the show which tells the stories about women over 50 who are still competitive in a whole range of sports.
You've put your courage to the test, laid all your doubts to rest. Your mind is clearer than before, your heart is full and wanting more, your future's at the door. Give it all you got, no hesitating, you've been waiting all your life.
My guest today is record-breaking parachutist and pilot Cheryl Stearns, whose name is legendary in the sport of skydiving. Her resume, an absolute catalogue of records that seems to extend far beyond what's possible in a single lifetime. Yet this affable aviator's quest for perfection in accuracy is breathtaking. She currently has in excess of 22,000 hours of flying time and almost 21,000 jumps to her name. Since the age of 17, when she started flying, just 3 months after her first jump, Cheryl's focus has been relentless when it comes to flying or jumping out of planes. And now, as she approaches her 65th birthday, her passion for perfection and the thrill of the free fall is still the air she breathes. She is, without question, the most successful competitive skydiver in the world. Cheryl has a total of 31 world records to her name and once held 4 different world records simultaneously, which is a feat no other parachutist has matched. She's the 2-time overall world champion, a 5-time world military champion, and has been US national champion 31 times. She holds the Guinness World Record for the most parachute jumps in 24 hours by a woman, a feat she achieved in 1995 when she jumped 352 times, hitting the 5-centimetre target a record 188 times, of which 84 were at night. Cheryl entered the Army in 1977 as the first female member of the Army's elite parachuting team, the Golden Knights, and served 2 3-year tours. After which, she continued her service in Army Reserve and National Guard units, retiring as a Master Sergeant in 2005. Currently, her day job is flying the Airbus for American Airlines out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And, just for fun in her spare time, when she's not parachute jumping, she's enjoying flying her Cessna 185, which, incidentally, is just one of over 75 type of aircraft that she's flown. And with such a record-breaking career, I wondered what motivates Cheryl these days and what means the most to her of all of her achievements. Well, Cheryl, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, this is a day off for you, isn't it? It's not very often that you're on the ground, it seems to me, with the life that you lead. Give us a sense of what is a normal working week for you now.
Well, I'm either jumping out of airplanes or I'm flying airplanes, or I'm teaching someone how to fly also. I work for, I have like 3 Civil Air Patrol cadet students, so I'm teaching young people how to fly, and then I'm flying for the airlines, for American Airlines, flying the Airbus, or I'm training in parachuting, getting ready to go to many international competitions throughout the year.
Well, you'd mentioned that training starts soon. You've taken a little bit of a break. What does that involve?
Well, I usually take off from December through March just because the weather isn't very good. And then I have like 21,000 jumps. I've been jumping almost 46 years. So I do need a break. Otherwise, I won't be hungry for getting back into training. And then, so when the weather warms up a little bit and the weather gets better where you've got clear skies, lighter winds, then I compete in 2 disciplines in parachuting throughout the world. The first one is called accuracy, and we land on a 2-centimeter target, which is basically the size of a quarter. And it's an electronically scored system. So actually the whole pad you're landing on is 16 centimeters in diameter, just a little bit bigger than a pie plate. And then it measures out. In the middle is the 2 centimeter target. It'll register 000, and then it'll register out to 16 centimeters. And what you're trying to do is guide your canopy. You open up, you jump individually or you jump as a team, a 5-person team, exit the aircraft at 3,000 feet. You stack your team out, and then you open up, and then you guide your canopy down. Basically, it's like a glider of an airplane. You don't have an engine. So you're working with the winds, the thermals, everything else, and judging your closure rate. So you land basically almost 0 forward speed, 0 downward speed, and put your heel on that 2 centimeter target. And so it's very, very precise. It's difficult. It's very challenging because every jump is different. You know, if you come in, someone else comes in behind you, the wind will shift, they'll have a little thermal. So everybody's got to work in varying conditions. And for competition wise, you make 10 jumps. So the person with the least amount of centimeters wins the competition. And world class wise, it's like around 5 centimeters for 10 rounds that will win the championship. And then as a team, so your score counts individually there. And then as a team, your team scores count. You take everybody's team score and combine those two together, and then of course the team with the least amount of centimeters wins for the 10 jumps. And that's accuracy. And then the style is where you get out of the aircraft at 7,500 feet, and what you're doing is you have to do a series of turns and loops, a race against the clock before you open your parachute. So you have a camera on the ground, and that's actually your heading you're going to turn on. And so you're almost a mile and a half up looking at a real small camera, but they actually have the camera like inside of a orange color platform on the ground. So you can kind of see that against the green ground or brown ground, whatever it is where you're jumping. And then you have to do a complete, you dive down and get your speed about 180, 200 miles per hour. You pull up, and you have to do a series of a left turn, a 360 degree turn to the left, a 360 degree turn to the right, a back loop, 360 left, 360 right, and a back loop. So it can either be where you go right, left, right. So we have 4 different series you have to turn. So they pull them out of the hat. So you have to get that really in your head which way you're going to go, because once you start, you're gone. And you can't deviate your body more than 25 degrees up or to the side, 25 degrees. So you're basically very flat, very tight. And it's like being a gymnast on a balancing, a board, because you're always in the verge of instability right there. You're going 200 miles an hour, and world class to do 6 maneuvers. We're talking about 360 degree turns, not 359. Because if you undershoot the turn, then you're penalized so many tenths of a second, depending on how many degrees you undershoot. So world class wise is about 6.0 seconds to win there. So you'd make five parachute jumps in that. They combine the score, and the one with the least amount, the fastest time sets the least amount of penalties wins. So those are the 2 disciplines. And those are the old classic ones. That's what we started with 40, 50 years ago when we started World Championships. And now there's actually 11 disciplines out there, from 4-way teams, 8-way teams, all, head downers, swoop in. So the parachuting world has progressed due to video cameras, to canopies, to, technology has really advanced the sport itself. And that includes safety wise and everything else. The old days, everybody was just kind of learning from everybody. Equipment was old military surplus equipment. And we just jumped one size fit all. If you were small, you had to jump this big monstrous military, rig. Now you can get custom equipment, custom colors, and everything safety wise is very, very safe compared to what it was many, many years ago.
How about the involvement of women in the sport, Cheryl? Have you seen an increase, and which direction have they gone with all the choices that you have now in skydiving?
There is an increase because in the old days, people that can only really jump were military-wise, getting to the training, and then you went to clubs, and women just, they didn't do sports like that. That was, so-called adrenaline junkie type, and women played a little tennis and other stuff like that, and they didn't get out there and, pack parachutes and slide on the ground and all sorts of stuff. So there weren't that many women in the old days. And then when the competition was heading, then we had the split for the men and the women. And and of course the men were always better than the women because they got better training. They had military training. They got sponsorship through the military. And then now, women in the military can jump. I was the first woman on the Army parachute team, so that pretty much opened the doors for the military back in the 70s. And now with the different equipment sizes that you can use, there's many more women coming into the sport because now they can customize their canopies and their parachute rigs, where the canopy goes in, the harnesses and all that. So it's not like a huge monster thing that they're trying to jump that they barely can fit into. So yes, the only thing that the women really aren't getting into is very few is your really high extreme sports. There's not that many, and they just don't quite go that direction. It's not a direction I would go either. More of your thinking of the word where the men, they're a little bit more invincible. They think they're invincible, where women are a little bit more cautious. So they don't lean toward those high end sports.
Like base jumping, are you thinking now, wingsuit flying?
Yeah, base jumping, wingsuit flying off the mountains. You don't really find many women, maybe 1, 2 at the most, and a lot of men. We're just not there yet. I don't think we ever will be. We're just not that type. We got families with this. I don't know. They're just not. There are some, and it's very safe as long as you get the training, but we just don't lean that way, in that direction.
Well, as you mentioned, the sport has evolved considerably now. And I mean, as you've gotten older, I think you're looking for softer landings for one thing, rather than just being a daredevil. It's all about that precision, isn't it? And self-preservation.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is the old days, we landed in a 10-meter pea gravel pit downwind with round canopies. And oh my gosh, your back would just get, you end up doing umpteen somersaults as you go downwind once you landed. And then we went into, 5 centimeter. That was a 10 centimeter target we started. Then we went to a 5 centimeter target. And then we went to air tuffets and foam tuffets. So now we can jump to 80s or 90s, whatever you want to do, because the landings are very, very soft for us because we land on the air and foam tuffets. We don't have to land on the ground. And then now with the development of the squares, from the rounds to the squares, you couldn't last in the old days. If you had 2,000 jumps, there were very, very few. We're talking about not even 5 folks out there, because anybody who went beyond that just was crippled. All those round, hard landings on the ground, you just didn't last. And now you can have thousands of jumps, soft landings on the squares. So we can jump much, much longer now compared to the old days. So, and you can also get yourself killed easier too, because some of those canopies are very high, very, very high performance, and we get people that jump into them a little bit too soon. And we used to have equipment failure, and people ran into each other in the old days. That doesn't happen anymore. 90% of our people that get killed under good canopies, because they do they hook themselves in, they turn in too low, they're high extreme canopies, they don't have that much. It'd be like you jumping and flying a 172 and then jumping into a big jet. You're just not quite there to handle it yet. You don't have the skill, and some of them jump too soon into it.
Well, knowing how much experience you obviously have, Cheryl, and the records that you've broken now, the length of time you've just been basically doing it with a number of jumps, what is it, nearly 21,000 now. What does training look like for you since you've taken that break and you get back into it now shortly here? What do you need to do? I mean, is it just repetition and accuracy now?
I know how to jump out of an airplane. I know what it takes to compete. I know what it takes to get, peaked. I have to get myself peaked at the right time at the competitions. So the bottom line is, I say, I've got to get the cobwebs off. I get the cobwebs off, and then I got to get the dust off, and then I polish myself. And when I polish myself, I want to be polished right at the time of a meet. Most people, when they win, if they win a world meet, they get there, they win a meet of some sort. I always say it's hard to get to the top, but it's much harder to stay at the top. So you have to find what it takes for yourself to be where your mind is there to win that meet, in terms of it feels good, you've eaten right, you've slept right, and you're peaked and you're not burned out. Because you can overtrain, and then you go into this meet and you can't hit the broadside of the barn because you're just tired. Your brain's tired. You can't think. You're not hungry for it. You've got to learn that fine line to have trained well enough to get all the cobwebs, dust, and polish it up, and be peaked right during that 1.5 week or 3 days, however long the meet is. A long world meet's like 10 days because we have so many people we have to jump, 300 some folks, and it takes a while to get through that. You might make 1 or 2 jumps a day because everybody's got to have their shot at it. A smaller meet, you can make 5-6 jumps in a day. So it's like a 2.5 day period. So when I go out now is, this year I've got a brand new canopy. My other canopy had 2,000 jumps on it. I'm selling someone else, and then I've got a brand new canopy. So I've got to kind of get used to that one. It's the same type I have exactly, but my other one, the porosity kind of went out of it after a while, and it flies great, wonderful, but it's time to get a new canopy because I need now another 5 years on another canopy. So either way, so I got to break that one in, fine tune it. It's like getting new skis or something, or a new tennis racket. It's like, it's a little different. And and then just get myself back in that, polish myself up. I can to be precise, at 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, my eye-foot coordination has to be there. My closure rate's got to be that time. The timing of everything's got to. It's just, it's got to be there. It's kind of like if you drive your car and you got a car ahead of you and you want to stop just ever so slowly and just touch it and not do any damage to it as you run in from the front end to the back end there. And you just want to kiss that car. That's basically where we want to do it on every single jump. And it's a timing with the winds that change all the time.
Yeah, nature is there to guide you down. And you had mentioned to me off air, Cheryl, that you've got 7 trips coming up overseas this year. I'm wondering what motivates you most of all about the game now?
The game now mostly is it's still a challenge, and I thoroughly enjoy competition. And the game is basically my friends out there, the camaraderie. It's always been that too. I mean, that's how I stuck with the sport, is because the people, I'm 17 when I started, and I'm out there and I'm jumping with these guys that kind of in the military, Air Force. They're all adults. I was the youngest one, and they're all helping me, and they're to this day my best friends. And then my life is around my skydiving people because they're just a good group of folks, and the style and accuracy and some of the other disciplines are just phenomenal folks. And so it's a reunion every time I go back and catch up with these people. Yeah, I might see them once a month, or I might see them once a year, depending on what meets they go to. But for the parachuting side, it's still like, I mean, I just love it. I just love it. Once I start jumping, it's like, God, why did I take a 4-month break here? Well, now I'm hungry for it. But there are times when I was in the military jumping and I had to jump every day as a job. I go, oh God, I hope it rains today. I just don't want to go out and skydive. There's time periods like that, and I don't want to get to that point. I'm paying for my jumps now, so every jump has got to count. And now it's quality, not quantity. And so I've loved competition all my life of any manner of anything, how fast I can ride a bike, how fast I can read a book. I mean, I might compete against you and you don't know it because you're reading this book and I'm reading, and I read the page faster than you did. I mean, I've always been competitive. So it's that. I mean, actually jumping out of the airplane, the thrill's not there. Jumping, unless I'm in a new place, my adrenaline goes up, heart rate goes up. Well, it goes up for pressure of a competition. It's there, and that's what you want. You want that edge. You want that little bit of adrenaline. You want that really where you're really thinking but not overthinking. You don't want to be too relaxed, because if you're too relaxed, you don't feel and see everything. But you want to be relaxed. But you also want that edge. You want that adrenaline. You want that pressure, but not too much pressure. And that's the thing between, I can outlast someone that's not been around very long, because I can make it to the end where they can't, because they can't hold up to the pressure. And they'll falter on the 9th and 10th round, where I can keep trucking because they don't know how to work it. So, and that's a challenge in itself. The challenge is learning about yourself. That's where I'm at. Before it was like, oh my God, let's try to win, let's train, let's do this. But you're not learning about yourself, what it takes to always stay at that top level. As I say, it's harder to stay at the top than it is to get to the top.
What has the sport taught you then, Cheryl?
It taught me, like, in the beginning, and it taught me respect for myself. It taught me respect for my equipment, and taught me respect for my peers. And I learned that at the age of 17, right then and there. And that was the same thing with flying airplanes. It taught me respect of equipment for my plane, myself, rules and regulations, because they're both very, very safe sports. Flying is very safe. Skydiving is very safe, as long as you respect that sport. If you don't, it will bite you, and you're not going to last very long. You break a rule, you don't do this, you jump when your heart rate's going a million miles an hour where you shouldn't go. God, this just isn't right. You better listen to that little angel on your shoulder and go, no, we need to go down, because the winds are too high. Things are out of your control that you don't quite like, because you're jumping beyond your limits, and you go, well, it's all right, I'll do it. Well, that's the time you get injured. And I've seen it too many times out there. And so you have to back off and listen to stay safe this whole time. So that's what it's taught me is safety. I'm real hardcore safety. And I there's a lot of times, well, Cheryl's not going up. I guess we better not go up either. There's reason. I see a lot out there, and then there are times you go, it's like flying airplanes. You don't want to get home-itis, like, oh, this is the last leg. We got to get home. Let's forget about that thunderstorm. Let's just go around it and through it or whatever. No, you guys, we need to wait 5 hours and not get in a hurry here, because we might never get home. So it teaches you patience on that. And all that goes through life itself, everything in life. Those three, core. It's taught me core values. It really has.
So what makes one skydiver better than another then? The patience, the respect and the safety elements obviously key in a dangerous sport such as skydiving. But there's a difference between one competitor being accurate and hitting that target as many times as you have so successfully over so many years, the consistency of your jumps, Cheryl, and then someone who comes second or third or fourth. What is that subtle difference? Because you teach it now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And it's, people talk about me, well, she's so focused, she can really focus and put it all out to the side and really home in on things. But it's, I tell people, I say, what makes a world champion out there? And number one, it takes consistency. That is my number one thing. You have got to be consistent, which means if you're consistent, you have to have consistent approaches, consistent how you set things up. It can't be like, well, I'll go here, do this, do that. It's routine. It's very routine. I'm a very routine person also, but also those you have to have that there, but you have got to have the drive and the attitude and the love for the sport, whatever sport you're in. If you don't have it, I mean, people says, oh, I really love it. No, it's really where you really love it. Not to where it's so, yes, I used to breathe and live it, but that can be a detriment too. That can be where you overtrain. You train too much, and now you can't compete at the meet because you've not have that fine balance. There's a balance there. I mean, we've got great jumpers that just do tremendous at in training, but they just fall apart at the meet. They can't balance. They can't do the focus. They've burned out. So it's there. But I think it's just you just have, it's in you. You got to love it. Which means if you love it, you're willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to train. Like sorry, you guys, I can't go hiking this weekend. I love to go do this, but I really need to train for this. But it's got to be the right way of training too. And then you got to have your mindset there, which means you have to focus. If your mind's not there, and you got to put 100% into every jump. And that's the problem with people that get paid. I've been on both ends. I've been where I've been paid to skydive in the military, and I've been where I have to pay for my skydives. And you get these guys that are professionals, and they're not that good, or they can be good. It depends if they balance it there, because now they're just doing it for a job out there. And I've been on that Army team where, we jump till 2:00. Let's get our 10 jumps in and get out of here. Well, that's called quantity of jumps and not quality of jumps. And so that's, there's a fine line on all that. Like, no, I don't want to jump. I'm going to stay on the ground. Well, you're going to have to stay here till 2:00. That's fine. I'll just watch you guys. I'm done. There's that where you have to say yes or no, and, for yourself. And so I think you have to have the attitude and you have to love it. It's like I had a lady that was on the Army parachute team. She was very, very good. But she had terrible, terrible attitude. And I pulled her off to the side and I said, X person here, you can be a world champion, but who cares if you're a world champion if no one respects you out there? Because that's the direction you're going. And she turned around. She became a different person. Because, we have world champions out there that we can care less about, But I'd rather be a world champion and have the full respect, or take second and third and still have the respect, or last and still have the respect than someone who wins that doesn't have the respect.
Well, clearly you've always been competitive and had that focus. I know you went to college on a tennis scholarship, so I'm wondering what parental influence you had. What did you inherit there? What was in the genes, and what did you feel that you as an individual had developed given the sport that you chose in young adulthood?
Well, when I grew up, for sport wise, there wasn't anything for us except like tennis. I grew up in Arizona. My dad played tennis. And then I spent my summers up in Michigan as a live-in babysitter for my aunt and uncle, for my 3 cousins. And they lived up in Crystal Lake. And so, I got to play tennis up there, sail and all that. So that really got me into tennis because I got to play up there. But I'm going to step back here for a second. I do remember like when I was in 6th grade. First of all, I played like tetherball in elementary school. I just competed. I really loved sports. I did not like to play with dolls. I remember playing with my friends that, let's go play with dolls. That's too boring, you guys. And I had a brother that was only 11 months older than me, and he could not entertain himself. So I entertained him. So we'd play football, we'd play this, we'd play that. So I entertained him. And then to get to school, I had to ride my bicycle. I didn't, the bus took too long, and I enjoyed riding my bicycle to 3 miles to school. But in elementary school in 6th grade, we had career day, and they said, Cheryl, after the firemen come and all those people come give their little spiel, they said, Cheryl, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I says, I want to be what society doesn't want me to be, because I did not want to be a teacher, a mother, a nurse, or secretary. And that was about all my choices were. But I didn't know what I wanted to be. I wanted to do something that kept me outdoors, and I never brought my work home with me. Because my dad would bring his work home, and I go, well, that's a nice vacation we had. I'm sure, having to do all this work. And same with my mother, that grade papers and all that other stuff. But I've always, it's just been there. My mother and my father never kept me from doing anything. They set the boundaries. Hey, be back by 10 o'clock at night or this. But go ahead and do whatever you want, but just let us know what you're going to do. And what I learned early in ages is if they trusted me completely, as long as I told them, hey, I'll be back at 10. And if I was going to be late, I made the call somewhere. It says I'll be back at 10 after 10. And then I knew I can go do what I wanted to do as long as I stay within those boundaries. And they never put, never squashed me for anything that I wanted to do. Except my dad wouldn't sign my permission slip to skydive though, but I only needed one parent for that. My mother did that. So he didn't go, oh no, I'm not signing this one off.
Well, you talked about, how the sport has changed now, Cheryl, and what motivates you. But, there's just a different environment. And, you're going to start training here in a minute again for another busy season. But there's new aspects to the sport in terms of the cost now and the planes and the rides you need to get up there and jump every time. It's not a cheap sport, is it?
It's very, very, very expensive. I started in 17, I made 25 cents an hour babysitting, and I was able to afford my jumping. So, and nowadays, I mean, I am an airline pilot. I didn't make much money in the old days, and now the last couple of years, I've made finally some good money. But I don't know how they can afford it. I can barely afford it. I don't know how people. I just don't. It's just too costly. And once the fuel went up, everybody raised the price, but they never lowered the price back down once the fuel went down. And now equipment is just ridiculous. My first one cost me $25 for a whole set because it was military surplus equipment. That's what we all bought, military surplus. It was very affordable. Cost you basically nothing. And now you're talking about $5,000-$10,000 if you got all brand new stuff, all color, custom color and everything else.
And in terms of equipment, you have your own landing pad, don't you? You take with your air tuffet?
Yeah, I have about $20,000 worth of equipment that I've bought and acquired because I run a training camp. So I have two tuffets that are very expensive, like $7,000, $12,000 for a tuffet. And then each pad is $500. The scoring box is $1,200. And I've got 7 scoring pads because I can't afford to have something break on me, because the only place I can get it fixed is over in Germany and Italy area. So I kind of take one over there and pick it up later. And so, yeah, it's, then you got your equipment. I mean, your parachute equipment. So, yes, to do accuracy now, in the old days, every drop zone had a peak gravel pit, because that's where everybody landed, because we had round canopies. You land in the peak gravel pit. So that's where he shot. So all drop zones had that. Now no one has it, and they just land on the grass out there. And now we've gotten so sophisticated in accuracy. Now you have to have all this expensive equipment. Before we just had a flat disc out there, 10-centimeter disc. Everybody had one. So there was no equipment involved to do your discipline. And then in the old days, we didn't have $30,000 cameras videoing you, with the drift angle and this angle and that angle, all that's on that camera. Everybody had telemeters. So they just lined up, and they're just big binoculars that sat on a, tripod. And so it was very, very affordable. Now it's not affordable. And then all your other disciplines require cameramen. So if you got a 4-way team, you got to have a cameraman there, which means the cameraman's got to have the camera, video, and then you got to download it. So you got all that stuff you got to download it to. So it's just gone. Yeah, technology's improved, but the cost is there too. That's why the parachute meets cost a lot now. Before they're very affordable to go to, but now you got to pay for all the equipment that you're using, that they're bringing, hauling, whatever.
That makes sense. Yep. A lot more involved now. Your resume is just stunning, Cheryl. And I'm just wondering, when you look back at the achievements, because sport is all about statistics, isn't it? Whichever sport you're in.
Right.
What means the most to you? What are your highlights? And if you took the statistics away, what do you most value about your career?
I just started out, I just wanted to make a jump that goes on to where I go 120 miles per hour. I never knew that I would end up where I am now and set records, 33-time national champion, 30 world records, 6 Guinness Book of World Records. But I think the most highly, yes, it's winning a competition, which is big there because that's a huge achievement, because that's what you train for. I think the biggest ones are getting inducted into the Hall of Fames. I got inducted in the Arizona Aviation Hall of Fame. I got inducted into the first International Parachutes, Skydiving Hall of Fame here in the States, and then also the Wiley Post award. It's my awards, and I think the other one, the big one also, the biggest one is my FAI award I got, and that was with in 2005 is the Centennial FAI. FAI is Federal Aeronautical Institutes, where it's our governing body for all of our for all your aviation sports, aerobatics, ballooning, people going around the world in X amount of time and all that stuff. And so you got the parachuting stuff that's all involved there. And then I was inducted in the parachuting side. So you're talking about, I was with Buzz Aldrin, Steve Fawcett, Richard Picard. And I went over there to Paris to get my award and go, okay, well, I don't know what this is all about, but okay, Centennial, what does that mean? Oh yeah, it's 100 years. Okay. Yeah, the aviation started in 1905 or 1900. Yeah, no, 1905, I think. So I think it's 2005 I got it. So 100 years later. So now they got to wait another 100 years to give one out. But either way, I'm with all these big dogs that I thought were big dogs, and I'm just little old me going, oh my God, I'm really with these guys. So then that really hit me that I got nominated for this, due to my accomplishments, people that respect me. So I think as I said, the most ones that really mean a lot to me is the inductions into the Hall of Fame and the awards the awards I got. Wiley Post, FAI, those are awards.
So what's on your bucket list?
Oh, my bucket list was to jump, make that high altitude jump. I formed StrataQuest and I got beaten out by Red Bull and, everything. The hard part was getting the money, but hey, I met a lot of people and it's still on my bucket list, but who needs, who's going to spend $20 million to send a female up to break the female record? I mean, the Russian still holds it since 1973, somewhere around there. That still holds the record. It's only 69,000 feet. But that was, I love projects and I don't have one yet. I'm still hunting, looking, because that's my challenge. That's where I get to meet people. I get to figure things out. And then on top of it, I get to use all my skills from the aviation side to the parachuting side. And so, I mean, my real bucket list is to win another championship, world meet. I really, I've come close, but just not close enough. I'm competing against, like the woman who won this year at the world meet. She was from China. She had 3,000 jumps and she was 18 years old. We can't even start skydiving in the United States till we're 18. And she already has 3,000 jumps. They start at 14. So that's the type of people I'm competing against now. And I'm definitely not as flexible as they are at their age, at my age of 63, So it gets a little bit more difficult on that side. Accuracy is still there. I can still beat them in accuracy, but style's a little bit more difficult. And I need both to win a world championship.
What were the wow moments in terms of those career highlights in terms of the jumps? And I'm curious also, when you were landing a bit heavier along the way, were there any really scary moments when you really wondered if that was the right call?
I have never injured myself skydiving. The only time I did was in Arizona. I came in under my canopy and I caught a little thermal that lifted me up and then slammed me down on the ground, and I tore my meniscus in my knee, but I didn't have surgery till 10 years later from that. That's the only injury I've ever, I have never broken a bone except when I've got injured riding my bicycle 3 times. First,
I read about that. I thought that was a careless moment there, yeah. Cheryl, when you consider that you've made how many jumps, 21,000 jumps, and you've never broken a bone. I mean, that's extraordinary for someone who's never jumped out of an airplane. I find that quite remarkable, because you assume that with it's like riding a horse. You're going to fall off.
Yeah, I mean, my first one was when I was 8 years old, and I ran into a stop sign because I was watching someone hit a baseball bat, and I was waiting for him to hit the thing, and I didn't, and I just ran out. I broke my 2 front teeth. So there went my 2 front teeth, and I just have caps on them for the rest of my life. And then second one was in 05 or 04 when a little 7-year-old kid cut in front of me, and I broke 2 ribs, and I had a type 5A in my shoulder. I didn't break my collarbone, but it buttonholed through my trapezium muscle and stuck in the asphalt. It took a 1/4 of an inch off my collarbone. And that was a year recovery on that, plus, a little head injury on that. And then the second one was getting hit by the car and had the severe, moderate, severe TBI head injury. No broken bones. It's hard for me. I got some strong bones out there, but boy, I get slammed in the ground. But my head bounced inside my brain bounced inside my skull a few times, and I've worn helmets on everything, so I've played safety on that stuff, but yeah, nothing skydiving, and I hope not.
Well, let's hope not. There's many more years of jumping to come, as you said.
Yes.
And the day job is going to last how much longer as a commercial airline pilot, Cheryl?
Let's see, April, May, June, so 12, 13, 15 more months. Not very long. And I'll be 65 by then. Yeah, it's coming to an end for flying for the airlines, which is a shame because I'm still young and I still love it and I still love to go to work and, people are great and people complain about this and that, but I've seen a lot worse. So I have no complaints. I'm alive,
And you have your Cessna, to go out and have a little bit of fun on it. Is that something that you use for taking people up for jumping, or you just use it for your own pleasure?
It's my Cadillac. It's leather seats, all that. It'll never be used for jumping. It's my transportation. So it'll be when I retire from the airlines. It's pretty hard to get on the airlines as a retiree. So it'll be my transportation to go where I need to go. I don't, I can get there much faster than driving cars and I love flying. And so I'll be using it to go to places in the United States. And I will be using it. I use it now as it is. And I do teach in it, but mostly it's going to be my transportation to get to around the U.S.
Well, obviously there's a lot more jumps to come. And I have to say, Cheryl, it's an amazing record and it's an amazing life you've had dedicated to either flying planes or jumping out of them. It's quite extraordinary. You must have some sense of pride in what you've achieved simply because you've come through this so unscathed. As you said, not one broken bone from 2,100 flights at jumps. That's extraordinary. And 22,000 hours of flying as well. Which are you most proud of?
Both of them, because both of them were in a man's world. It's very difficult to, I started flying. There was only one female airline pilot, and I wanted to be a airline pilot, but I wore Coke bottle lenses. I had to have eye surgery. And they said, you'll never be one. And I says, well, I'll find my way. And I had a lot of obstacles in the parachuting side because it was a man's world there, especially getting on the Army team. And then I had the obstacles being a female, trying to get the airlines with, eyesight still and being a female. So you had to be twice as good. I got hired with a master's degree with 5,000 hours with the airlines and already had 8 years in the military. So, hey, it's pretty hard to turn this one down. So you had to be twice as good. Same thing with the military. When I went in the military on the Army team, I had 1,500 jumps. I was a world record holder in accuracy, and I was a national champion. So I was well qualified to be there. And I wasn't to be there as the female token. And it's like I started out with them. I mean, the first time I got on the team, and then I knew them for 2 years. It's like a 6-week tryout period to get on the Army parachute team. But I tried out for 2 years, and I got on the team. And then once I was on the team, then they said, okay, you 5 people are going overseas to this parachute meet. And I said, what about us? Oh, you guys are going up to Bowling Green, Indiana for a little parachute meet. I go, well, this is the last time I'm getting left behind. And I didn't want to be on this team as a female. I wanted to be on the team because I was the best. And then not only that, because I didn't want anybody to talk saying, well, she's on this team because she's a female. No, I wanted to hear it. She's on this team because she's good. So that made me really, really work at it to be good. And then it also made my teammates work at it and be good. And that's why we were really, really good back then. And we were tight knit. And that's the same thing for the aviation side and the parachuting side is I could not have been successful at all in all these teams if I didn't have help along the way. You cannot be successful. You cannot heal yourself. You cannot get strong by yourself, and you cannot be successful by yourself unless you have the help there. And I know that it's like when I had my brain injury, I could not do it on my own. I needed my friends to help me, to lead me and yes, I can do, you give me that inch, I'm going to run with it. But I also need the help to get there. So I had help along the way. I had people that, hey, we'll write this, we'll help you. We know this person will do this. But then you also have to do it on your own. So, hey, give me that inch and I'll go for it. And that's what I do now with my cadets, my Civil Air Patrol people. if I see some potential in there, I'm going to give you guys that inch, but I got to see you guys take that initiative and run with it. If not, I'm done. So that's where I've been successful, is because of all the people through my life that has helped me and people that are still helping me.
Well, you obviously have a clear sense of self-awareness with what you've achieved, Cheryl. So how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that other than like, I hadn't even thought of that other than like, wow, there's nothing bad about that person. Nothing bad we can say about her. It's about all. I mean, sometimes you get the faults here and there. Yeah, we all have faults. We're all different, but it's like I don't have an ego, and I don't want to be looked at someone who has an ego, so that wouldn't even be in there. Other than, and I don't want to be like, well, she just was a great skydiver. No, she was a great pilot. No, that's not. She's just a good person. She's just a good, well-rounded, nice, enjoyable person to be with, and we highly respected her. That's basically, that's my legend. And the other thing is I've touched a lot of people out there, but a lot of people have touched me, so I'm giving back, where my biggest accomplishment is when one of my students beat me, someone I've taught how to jump, polished them up, and they beat me out there. And then it's like, okay, I did a good job. I'll pat myself on the back on that one. And my biggest accomplishment is see my cadets out there, or the people I've taught to fly. There's so many people I've taught to fly that have gone that career and made a career. They were my private pilots, and I've turned them and got them on the right road. And that's what I'm doing now in mentorship. I mentored without knowing what mentor meant in the old days. You just said this and that. Hey, how about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? I'm not out there purposely mentoring. I'm just giving advice. Hey, maybe you might want to do this, or now I'll help you if you're willing to run with it, and to give them some guidance. And that's where I'm a deputy commander of the Civil Air Patrol. So that's what I'm trying to do with my students out there is, that they can look back and go, I wouldn't have been down this road if it wasn't for that captain I knew way back, and set me off over here. I just want to see them be successful.
Well, you mentioned that you're going to be visiting 7 countries this year for competitions. Cheryl, where are you heading?
I'm going to Argentina for a World Cup meet in May, and then I've got these European Cups. One's in Croatia, Bled, Slovenia, Germany, and then Austria, Belluno, Italy, and then Switzerland. So that's where, and then I have my nationals at the beginning of September. So everything finishes at the end of September.
Well, another exciting year to look forward to, Cheryl. I want to wish you the very, very best of luck with the rest of the jumps and the records that no doubt you'll be setting along the way. And thanks very much for taking the time to come on the program.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And if you'd like to find out more about Cheryl and her incredible records, you can find details on our website at wispsports.com. Just look for the Bolder Woman show notes. And whilst you're online, be sure to check out some of the other shows that we have here at Wisp Sports. We cover all sports for all women around the world. And in addition to the podcast, we also have videos, articles, and blogs. And you can follow along with the stories of our Wisp ambassadors too, who are competing at elite level. There's some great stories from so many different sports, and they're all here at wispsports.com. You can also join in the conversation by following us on social media at Wisp Sports. And if you have any suggestions for guests for any of our programs here, do drop us a line to info@wispsports.com. Until the next time, thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting women in sport everywhere. Goodbye for now.
This is your moment.